Hey everyone, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we've got a look at a new plugin from Eventide, the CrushStation Overdrive Distortion plugin, which is a cool new distortion plugin that has a few of the controls that Eventide are known for, like the ribbon and the hot switch here down at the bottom. We'll go over them a little bit later. So the first part of this video, I'm going to go over the controls, kind of quickly go through every control and what it does, how it works. If you want to skip straight to the sounds, click the link in the description. There's a timestamp down there that'll get you right to hearing this plugin in action on some audio material. So we've got typical in and out meters at the top, an in and out slider on the left and right side, the amount of gain applied to the signal, of course. We've got a gate, and the gate can have a slow or fast attack, can be switched on and off. And the threshold control right here controls where the gate is applied. And gates are important on a distortion plugin because distortion, saturation can inherently bring up a lot of that background noise in a signal. And if you have a source with a lot of gaps in the sound, you don't want all that noise brought up. You want to hear just the distorted main part of the signal. So the gate kind of cuts out all the stuff that's noise. We've got a typical mix knob here from 100% down to 0%. The drive here is the overdrive amount from subtle to aggressive. Far left would be nothing, subtle to more aggressive. And that works in combination with the grit and sustain controls we'll talk about later to kind of drive that signal. Sustain here is a compression and sustain control. If you turn it to the left, it's pre-distortion, as it says on top. And past the center position, it is post-distortion, and it keeps the overall loudness consistent. Sag, if you turn sag up, you get kind of a sputtery, crushed, and broken sound, and it's inspired by the power rail sag of bad tube amps or failing tube amps and dying gear. So it gets you kind of that broken up sound of components failing. The octaves are mixing in lower and higher pitch shifted octaves before the distortion and compression. You can see down one octave here, and you bring it up to up how many octaves it is. And on the right hand side, it's just up octaves and down to 0 again. So any combination. You can also type it in manually down and up there. Grit here adds more low end before the distortion for a grittier low end sound. If you want to beef up the sound of something, grit really helps on that. The gate, of course, was all here. We just talked about how the threshold ties into that. Then we've got a 3-band EQ here, a bass control, a treble control, and a mid control, which has a sweepable frequency selector from 200 Hertz all the way up to 3K. The ribbon control allows you to seamlessly move back and forth between any set parameters. So if you look at the drive control now, I've got a blue arc above it with a white dot on the left and a blue dot on the right. And those are the extreme parameters of the ribbon control. The blue dot being ribbon all the way to the right, and the white dot being ribbon to the left, and I can smoothly go between each of them. So let's say you want to add sag to this ribbon control too. To program it, you click on the white dot and set that parameter as your left side control. The blue dot will be your right side control, and that sets the range the ribbon will move between. Now you can see drive and sag are moving between those two. You can also shorten up the range if you'd like to, widen the range just by dragging those white and blue dots around. You can also program the ribbon by pressing the button on the left or right hand side here. I'll click the right side and moving the knob to the desired ribbon position for that side. So I can just say I want the blue knob to be there, done. And that sets the range as well. Left side, move the knob down, done. And that sets the range for the ribbon. The ribbon can also be controlled by MIDI. So if you want to tie that into a mod knob on a keyboard, for example, and move between settings that way, that's a pretty cool way of doing it. If you want to clear the ribbon programming for one knob, you just right click on it there, gets rid of it, or you can right click down here on the ribbon to get rid of all of those ribbon settings to go between. This active button turns the effect on or off. And we've got this programmable hot switch here. And the way we program it is we click and hold until it starts to flash. While that light is blinking, we set the controls as we want. I'm just going to move some controls around randomly. Then I click that hot switch again. And whenever I hit this hot switch, I'm going between those two sets of controls that I just set, the first setting and the second setting. Nice way to jump between settings there. And again, that can be programmed to be controlled by a MIDI CC, flip it on and off with hardware. The last control I want to look at is the mix lock up at the top. So when you're going through presets, sometimes they have different mix amounts, but let's say you want to use this as a send effect and you always want it to be 100%. Well, then you just click that mix lock on and it'll keep it set at 100% no matter what preset you're going through. So let's move on to hearing this in action. I'm going to go back to the default preset here, and we're going to hear it first on a drum and percussion bus without the effect first. Default setting for the effect. That's pretty crushed. I'm going to dial back that mix knob. So that's a little bit too aggressive for that whole bus. I found a preset that works really well. If I go into the warm and compress category here and go down to old tube compressor, bring down the output a little bit. Here it is. Bring down the mix knob. Just kind of fills things out a lot. Now in the context of the full mix, I'm actually going to dial this mix up a bit, so by itself doesn't sound so great, but in the context of the full mix should sound like it's really filling things out. We'll start with it bypassed first. Things just get a little bit more definition with that effect engaged. Now what I'd like to do is listen to it on bass. What I originally had on this mix was a bass distortion send, and I was using Decapitator from Sound Toys, creating the distortion for the bass here. But I'm going to try CrushStation and see if that works any better. So here it is. I'll get rid of that bass distortion so you can just hear the bass part without the distortion. And now we'll bring that bus back in with CrushStation on its default setting. I'm going to move this fader down here to bring the effect in and out. Back down again. Now with the bass mix just by itself, you really don't get a sense for what this does, but in the context of a really busy section of a mix like this is, you can use that bass distortion bus to really let that bass cut through the dense section. So I'm going to start with it down, and you're going to see me move it up as this section rolls along, and you hear that bass start to pop out because of the distortion. So just bring that up, you can hear more definition on the bass part. I'm going to try a couple of the presets just on this bass part. Let's go to some really crushed presets. That one's cool. I'm going to bring that one up as we play. Just destroying it. Some really cool effects there. Next, we're going to hear it on some electric guitars. Here it is bypassed. Bring it in. So just crushes it. Let's turn this gate on. Just crushes it. So I'm going to bring this drive way down and dial that up. So one thing, if you put the mix up too high, it really filters out a lot of that top end. So I'm going to bring that mix down and bring the drive up a little more. Bypass. Level match. If we want to really boost that top end, we can go up and add some of those upper octaves. See how that sounds. Just a little bit of light saturation on the guitar sounds nice, and we could really drive it if we wanted to, crush it. And full mix sounds crazy. Just totally destroyed, which is kind of cool, but not in this mix. Now I'm going to go to the keyboard part, and in here I found a really cool preset. Here's the keyboard part without any of the CrushStation on. And I found a preset I really liked in the warm and compressed section called the smoothest, crispiest roads. Here it is. Dial the mix back a bit. Nice little sheen, smoothness on top of it. Let's try another preset here. Cassette tape. Five o'clock shadow. Nice, just some light distortion on the keyboard parts there. And the last instrument we're going to hear it on is vocals. Here's the lead vocal part all by itself.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
And the preset that I found that worked really well on this one is Warm Vox Boost.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game.
Bring the mix back.
This game, but I keep finding myself inside of the same old same.
So this is one of those effects that really works well in the context of the full mix. So I'm going to play the full mix and then blend this mix knob up as it plays.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game, but I keep finding myself inside of the same old same hurricane. Oh, 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 hurricane. Oh, 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 hurricane. I keep saying I can't keep playing this game, but I keep finding myself.
Kind of upper mid-range boost is really nice in the vocal part as it plays.
I keep saying I can't keep playing this game, but I keep finding myself inside of the same old same hurricane. Oh, 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 oh.
So full mix is definitely too much, but if you get it around the midpoint, it sounds really nice.
I keep saying I can't keep playing
Podcast.
this game, but I keep finding myself inside of the same old same.
So there it is, CrushStation from Eventide, their new distortion plugin on a bunch of different sources. Now, I kind of overdid things today to give you a real sense of how this thing sounds, but you could use really subtle amounts of this and let some elements of the mix really pop through using some light saturation and distortion. And of course, it's capable of absolutely crushing things if you want to go for that effect as well. So highly recommended. It's got an intro price, I think, of 39 bucks. So it's a pretty inexpensive plugin as well. If you don't have any other distortion plugins, or if you're looking for an alternative to the distortion plugins you have, this is a good one in my opinion. If you have any questions or comments, don't forget to let me know down in the comments section below. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so we can keep you in the loop about what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one.